It is VBS week. If you didn't know, I'm going to be mentioning this multiple times. In fact, we're so excited about VBS week, we had to pause the Minor Prophets, okay? So this is a big deal that we're pausing for a week to talk about the theme of VBS. And it's, I wonder, in reference to God, but I wonder if for a moment, not yet, I wonder if for a moment you guys can indulge me with something. Because there are folks throughout this room, folks throughout this building that have put in a whole lot of preparation, a whole lot of effort. And there's one thing, Scott mentioned it last week, but I noticed when we're singing Terry's VBS songs, all the songs show the licensing. His name is in the license. That's just so cool. His little name is up there as the license of the writer's song. But here's the thing. There are a lot of people whose names are not going to show up on the screen that have put in a lot of work. And I don't want to give them this cheering right now. I want to give it now, but I want them to feel it about Tuesday evening, because there'll be one more day to go, okay? So what I need for those of you that are going to be cheering them on, celebrating all the work that has gone into VBS, for the kids that are here, we're going to give them a big round of applause. But those of you that are involved, those of you that are serving, you don't hear this until Tuesday night, okay? Okay, so just bottle it up. And then on Tuesday night when you're like, I'm done, then you can hear it. And then you'll come back Wednesday and we'll be done. Okay, so all of those, we want to give a big round of applause to all that prep work that's gone on. Here we go. Woo! Thank you. And to all of those that you're serving, bottle. Okay, you got that bottled up. Now we're talking about the wonders of God. We're talking about how awesome God is. I love this graphic because I love watermelon and the fact that there's an astronaut, and I don't know what's going on. I wonder what this week's going to be all about. And before we get too far, there's like a calculator floating in the wind. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen this week? But I'm excited about what's going to happen, but I want to talk about wonder this morning. I want to talk about the God of wonders. I want to talk about how we wonder, and maybe we will, in the midst of all of this, get around to something. Okay, so the wonder that's a noun. I know some of our littlest kids left. I know some of our older kids are still here. For those kids that are in school, what is a noun? Person, place, or thing. So we're going with thing on this one. Okay, so wonder as a noun. So think of God. God is a God of wonders, okay? It's a feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful. God is so beautiful. The unexpected, God works in mysterious ways. The unfamiliar, how awesome it is as each day and year goes on, we see this new avenue, this new picture of God. Or the inexplicable. That is God. Okay, so that's our noun, that's our person. That is who God is. But counter that with the verb. What's a verb? Those are my students here. Now, honestly, I don't know what a verb is. Action word. Thank you, Alexa. I will show up for class on Monday. Okay. Verb as an action is to ponder, to think about. Okay, we do that. But then the second part is to feel doubt and worry. We're going to talk about two problems of the word wonder. And the first problem is right there. That number two, to feel doubt and worry. And I quickly want to give you an understanding of how you solve this problem, but we'll go a little bit bigger. If you're in a place of worry, you are focused on a problem. If you're in a place of awe, you are focused on the God of wonders. You are focused on something wonderful, okay? And so the first problem we've got with this word is there can be some struggles. What? I don't know. And listen, I am a guy that continually doubts. I am a guy that thinks through things, I read the Bible and I go, really? And I'm the one preaching. So I want to tell you, there's a place to kind of walk through some of this stuff and go, man, and let God work with you. The other problem is this, okay? This is straight from, when you look up the definition of wonder, it says tip. This is for me. Similar sounding words. Wonder is sometimes confused with wander. Best of luck today. Wonder is sometimes confused with wander. So this is the problem. Let's look at wander with an A for a second. Wonder versus wander. Everyone needs to say this. It's fun. Just say it. Everyone say it. Wonder versus wander. Okay, we're feeling it. We're feeling it. Okay, but you know what? I accidentally put the slide in twice, so that means you got to say it again. Thank you for playing along. The fact that I can hear Melinda in the back louder than all of you tells me she's my favorite, okay? Now, yes, I know, I cry out too, and I wonder how can I display wonder and wander? There's definitions you get out of a book, and then there's visual definitions you get from your preacher, and here it is. Here is wonder. Okay, so think of Einstein with wonder. We are fixing our thoughts. And when we think wander with an A, think of the other Stein, Frankenstein, and we are aimlessly floating. Who knows where we will end up, okay? And so to understand wonder and wander, think of it this way. With wonder, there is a focus, there is an aim. With wander, there is no focus, there is no aim. And in fact, it's brainless. You want to eat brains, okay? It's how it goes. But here is the thing. This leads into another problem. And let me get a little more technical here. That the Harvard Gazette tells us the wandering Frankenstein mind. Listen, you know you want to. Go ahead, put your arms up. Put your arms up. Come on. This is wandering. Okay. The wandering mind, the Harvard Gazette tells us, is not a happy mind. Okay? Think through this for a second. When your mind is free to aimlessly go wherever, and you guys are right there now, okay? About 47% of you. How do I know that? Because in the general population, about 47% of waking hours are spent thinking about what isn't going on. Think about it. Roughly half of your time from getting out of bed before you go to bed, you are not thinking about what you are doing half of the time. And I was deeply thinking about this while driving back windy roads to Fort Hill. That's probably not the best thing. But think through, and by the way, this is a moment of refuge for me. I'm thinking, you know what, God, in the midst of this sermon, if I get 53% of them, I'm getting them. I've got it. We are prone to wander. We have a God of wonders. I want to look at how do we, as a people that wander, Frankenstein, become a people that focus on the God of wonders. I will say this. I'm going to talk in the very simplest of terms today. There are some few layers. This is the side note. There are some added things here. Some of us, by nature, we wander more than others. We have the medical diagnosis. We are bound to wander more than others. Some of us, by nurture, are bound to wander more than others. Let me explain. As I was growing up in the school system, common refrain that you can only hold people's attention for 15 minutes. As I got into working in ministry, they said that's not true. It's about 7 minutes. And then today, we're below 3 minutes. How many of you have clicked on a video link and saw like 3:04 and you're like, no, get out of here. If you can't give me all I need to know in 90 seconds, I don't need it. We are prone to wander, and we are nurturing this. We're nurturing it in ourselves. We're nurturing it in our children. And listen, if we're at under 3 minutes now, I don't know. Is it possible to get to a point of negative time attention span? Think through this. How many of you will read the article or you just read the 3 bullet points? Done. How many of you can sit and just focused, just gazed? I'm not going to play the game where I set a timer for 3 minutes because some of you just start ripping your hair out. Be like, it's been 3 hours. We are people that struggle with this. This is a common problem. I want to take a pause on the mind wandering. I want to get us to the mind wondering, the focus. I want to look in the good book. And what I want to do, I want to focus on something, but I want us to grasp the overall picture. Because I want us to see, first off, when we read the Bible and we understand what's going on, it can be rather hilarious. There can be some actions taking place that as we look into it, we're like, that's kind of funny. But I want you to open your Bible and turn to Numbers. And as you're opening your Bible and turn to Numbers, it's the one place I need you at this morning. I'm going to give some background information. God's people, through a series of events, and by a series of events, they're raised, they follow, some colorful coats happen, some people get sold into slavery, some people come into the nation that put them into slavery for blessing, and then all of a sudden they go from blessing to becoming a belonging. And God's people are in the midst of slavery in Egypt. God, because God is a God of wonders, breaks them out. How many of you love movies? Any folks out here? Any movie lovers? How many of you love watching a movie from just 10 years ago when computer graphics first kind of kicked up, and you turn on one of those early CGI movies and you're just so angry? And you're angry for this reason. When you watched it 10 years ago, you were like, this is amazing! And you watch it now, you're like, what is this garbage? Do you recognize, and I love those natural disaster movies, and they keep getting, like you can make those every single year because the computer graphics are to keep getting better. Do you remember the very first ones that came out with like the wall of water coming upon New York City? You remember being in theaters like, oh wow. If you go back and watch those today, you're like, that's so dumb. It's just that simple time. Here, let me explain a God of wonders. There was no computer graphics that split the Red Sea. There was no computer graphics that set the plagues upon Pharaoh. It was a God of wonders. And as they're walking through what is not computer generated, but what is absolutely real, they get to a place where they just throw it away, they forget, and rather than recognizing a God of wonders, you ready? We're going to go there. They're wandering through the desert. Rather than being awestruck by God, you are so awesome, they look right in front of their 2 feet and they say, this ain't cool. I don't like this. I'm not enjoying this moment. And they're wandering like Frankenstein, aimlessly through the desert, failing to see the wonders of God. In Numbers 22, 23, and 24, here's what's happening. God's people, God's nation, it is a massive amount of people, and they are walking to the promised land, and they need GPS because they're going in circles. And they are going in circles because they are wandering like Frankenstein rather than being wondering and dwelling on the wonders of God. And then what happens, what we're going to look at, King Balak has the nation of Israel in his land, and he is furious. He does not like that. So he hires in help. He hires in, let's call him a voodoo doctor. Okay, that's what we're going to call Balaam. He hires in a voodoo doctor, and he says, Doc, curse him. This is what we're going to get into, okay? In Numbers 22, 23, and 24. As Balak turns to Balaam, as he has paid him, he has called him, he has begged him to come, he says, curse them. This is what happens. I mean, I'm hoping it's happening. Here we go. Okay. In Numbers 23, Balaam gets up, and 3 different times he's going to cast down an oracle or a vision, or he is going to attempt to curse. But this is what happens. King Balak says to Balaam, what have you done? What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies, but yet we see in chapter 22, he's blessed them. He's blessed them. We see in 23, the blessing begins, the Lord gave Balaam a message. And he goes back and he says, I can't curse them who God has not cursed. I cannot curse who God has not cursed. How can I condemn those who the Lord has not condemned? When I speak of the nation of Israel, when I speak of wandering people, look for the nearest seat and sit down and know that I'm talking about us. How can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How can I condemn those whom the Lord has not condemned? And he's going to say this: I will speak only the message that the Lord puts in my mouth. This is Balaam's reply. All right, I want to break your brain for a little bit here, okay? I want you to reply to yourself. And I want this to be your reply. I want you, when the curses that are aimed at yourself, that are spoken by yourself, you guys catching me? There is no one that'll talk worse to you than yourself. When that voice speaks up, flip this right here. You say to that voice, I will speak only the message that the Lord puts in my mouth. Are you catching me here? There is no one that'll curse you more than you curse yourself. And when you want those curses to fly, reply the same way Balaam does in Numbers 23. I'm only speaking the messages that the Lord puts in my mouth. I'm not going to give you all those messages right now, but I want you to hear what one of them is. You're my child. I love you. I forgive you. And when you speak curses, you counter those curses with the voice of an almighty Father. Let me talk more about this God of wonders. You know, when a king wants something, he wants it done his way. And he's going to get pretty frustrated. He's going to get pretty upset that he's not getting his way. And a king will try again and again and again. Mind you, I've got the wrong number up here because I do not do everything perfect. Numbers 23:19. Again, Balak says, curse them. I paid you, go curse them. This is Balaam's reply, Numbers 23:19. God's not a man. He does not lie. He is not a human, so he does not change his mind. Has he ever spoken and failed to act? Has he ever promised and not carried it through? I want you to look at that last phrase. Has he ever promised and not carried it through? And I know that there are a few in here that you want to say, yes, but I want you to understand you're still in the being carried through. Are you catching me? That there are things we have asked for, there are things we have prayed for, and we have prayed them because he has specifically told us by his word to pray for these things, and we get angry because we don't see them, but we should be angry because we got to understand he is still carrying us and caring for us and recognizing he will carry it through. Why? Because he's not like you and me. Why? Because he is a God of wonders. Why? Because he speaks ultimate truth. And so when we aim to curse ourselves, when we aim to criticize ourselves, when we aim with our own thoughts to cut ourselves, we've got to go to the one who has called us, who's the one who cares for us. And if in the moment we don't see that promise, we've got to understand he is currently carrying us in it. Do we find ourselves in the wonders of God or just wandering aimlessly through? Harvard will tell you wandering is not going to make you happy. You probably could tell yourself, I have wandered into some awful places. I have wandered into some dark thoughts. I have wandered into thoughts that I'm thinking, I should probably not tell people that I'm thinking this because of how awful and ugly and terrible it is. And God is calling out to you, listen to me. Don't hear that curse. Listen to me. I want to pause on the function of the Bible and the faith base. I want to jump over for a second. We talked for a moment about Harvard. I figured we might as well include Yale. Okay, is that fine? So we're going to go for a second. We're going to look at that, but here's what I want you to get. Out of what we just looked in the Bible, out of the scriptures we just read, out of understanding we are God's people, no matter how bad it is, you're blessed. Okay? Visually, think of this scenario. You have got Balak going, curse him! Curse him! I got like 53% of you right there. And Balaam going, I'm going to try. And then down below the mountain, we have God's people. Listen, we are the people down at the bottom of the mountain, stirring in the dust, complaining about the little things around us. And you know what we're failing to see? That there is someone pointing at us, wanting to curse us and curse us and curse us. And in the midst of our complaining, we fail to recognize how truly blessed we are by the oversight and by the protection of our Father God. Listen, I'm not saying complaints don't happen. I'm not saying the struggles of the day-to-day don't happen. I'm saying in the midst of that, we've got to look beyond and see what's going on. God loves you dearly. And there's attacks, there's assaults, there are things that are being wished upon us that God says, no, no, no. And so we need to understand what God is doing. Now, jumping over, I want to talk about the keys to happiness in both faith and function. Listen, I'm going simple. This is a much deeper subject than I can at this moment. I'm just hitting very simply, all right? But I want to talk about the function first, and I'm going to turn it to Yale, because this is one of my favorite professors. This is Laurie Santos, and you could call her Dr. Happy. Like, that's what she does. She studies happiness. She studies the psychology of happiness. This is such a fun time. Imagine if you just went and sat with someone and all they talked about was happiness all day long. Such a joy. But she has not only a podcast, but she fills classrooms. She does speaking engagements on speaking to people on how we get to this place of happiness. And I want to pull two things, and these are functionally what she would tell. Mind you, nothing that I know of from her comes from a place of faith. Everything I've heard from her fits in the avenue of faith. She's speaking functionally. I'm looking faith. And when she speaks functionally, I go, does it fit? It fits. I'll listen, okay? Two things that she brings up. Functionally, keys to happiness. Here they are. To find happiness, here's how you function. Be present in the good. Okay? There are some of you in here who did not grow up with smartphones, and it angers you when you see a younger generation in the midst of a good moment utterly missing it. You know what I'm talking about? And I can be one of those people missing it. Be present in the good. I want to speak to all of us, not just a certain generation, that there are some great times we have absolutely missed because we've been wandering like Frankenstein. Be present in the good. Then Dr. Happy, Laurie Santos, would say this: in the bad, in the worst, wonder on the good. Okay, you catching me here? In the good, be there. In the bad, wonder, not wander, not Frankenstein, but Einstein, wonder on the good things. I had a moment of clarity of how this makes sense, because as I'm leaving Fort Hill, coming back from bringing the kids at camp, they didn't smell that bad. Good thing. I'm stopped at an intersection, and here I am. We are free. I can turn any way I want. I can go any direction I want. I have freedom, and I'm choosing in that freedom to bring my children home. We're going to have fun. We stopped at Skyline on the way. Why? I was a free man. Jen was here. Okay, that's why. I'm sitting at an intersection as a free man, and I'm not happy in the moment because I'm thinking through some stuff, and like I'm not a happy guy. And some of you that have driven down the Fort Hill, you drive by, like on one side a jail and one side a prison. They're different. And I'm looking ahead of me in the prison yard, and I'm thinking, you know what? There's some dudes in a better mood in there right now than you. there's some laughter going on right there. There's some guys smiling, and they are locked up. And I know this through my own personal studies, that there are some people that have not found happiness and they have not found joy until they were behind prison bars, because it wasn't until the Lord sat them in a cell that in His great mercy they got to understand what it meant to be in Christ. And it was in that cell where they knew the man and accepted the Lord, and then they came in Christ, and for the first time in their life, they found something that wasn't just circumstantial happiness that faded and they needed more of, but an eternal happiness that went beyond the walls, beyond the bars. And so I'm sitting here thinking through some stuff, and I'm like, weird prayer. Thank God I'm not there. That's what the prayer was. Sounds rude, but you know what? God, thank you that in this moment there is some freedom, there is some place to be. But you know what, God, thank you that it takes a prison cell for some people to come to know you. Key to happiness function. Be present in the good. Set your thoughts on greater things than the bad. This is the function. Let's look at how this works in faith. Same one, number one. In faith, be present in the good. When good things are happening, who here has enjoyed a sunset this year? Who here has enjoyed a rainbow this year? Who here has seen an animal and all you wanted to do was hug said animal? The rest of you, I don't know. I don't know about you. Some of you are like, where's the, are you going to let puppies out, Rob? Where's the puppy? Be present in the good. And here's the thing, for all of us, there are different things that we see. So the 53% of you that I have right now, in your own way, in your own mode, I want you to answer this, God, thank you for. And in your place, answer that. Maybe it's holding a grandchild. Maybe it's holding a graham cracker. Some of us are simple. But whatever it is, enjoy it, engage it, and praise God for it. Okay? That's how faith works. And guess what? It fits with the function. Praise God in the goodness of your life. Jumping next, because we talk about the bad in function. What do we do in the bad? Where do we go in the bad? Listen, bad stuff happens. I'm not going to feed you a line that's like, nope, that ain't true. There are some of you in the chair that you are at, there is some struggles going on in your life because there is a loved one clinging to life. There is relationship woes. Some of you do not know what tomorrow holds, and that is frightening. And in the bad, and in the struggles, and in the awful, we, with an O, we wonder, we think about, we aim our thoughts on God. Through prayer, and here's this, through prayer and hearing His promises. This thing is chock full of God's promises. Chock full of God's promises. The key to happiness is wherever your feet are at. Maybe it's a jail cell. Maybe it's in a room, just everything's falling apart. Wherever you're at, and some of you, you don't get to leave the bad place because it's like here. Whether it's emotional darkness, physical struggles, you're like, I can't get out of it. And God says, come here. He's like, no, I can't leave it. And He says, no, come here. God, listen, I don't know what game we're playing. I can't get out. And He says, no. Be there, be here. And I want to say this, that there are some beautiful promises that God gives us throughout Scripture that we need to hold to and we need to cling to. One story that I love and I've shared before, that a slave owner in the rural South before the Civil War looks at his slaves and he comes up and he just holds them by the neck and he goes, what is it? What is it? He says to slaves, what is it you have that I can own you and you can be happy, but I can't find happiness? It's Jesus. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. And whether we're shackled in Egypt or free to walk, it's Jesus. It is Jesus. Let me jump forward a slide here. happiness in whatever situation is one of these two avenues. Again, I am oversimplifying this. And I know one of these two places, God, this is awesome. Or God, you are awesome. Because the man in the jail cell may not in that moment be able to say, this is great. I love my cot, my porcelain. Nope, this isn't great, God. But the person in the jail cell, you know what they can say? God, you're awesome. God, you are awesome because of your promises. I know this is temporary. God, because of your promises, I know that these physical walls are not eternal walls, that the spiritual walls have been ripped apart. That's why Philippians 4:8, a prisoner stuck in an awful thought can hear from Paul when he says this. Dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true, what is honorable, what is right, what is pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. And yet I know of some young men in the book of Acts, as they heard about the Lord and they spread the word about the Lord, they were called into the council. And the council said, stop talking about Jesus. And they said, no, we're going to keep talking. And so they would bring him back in and say, stop talking about Jesus. We told you. They would go out. Guess what they do? They'd talk about Jesus. They bring him in and they just beat the tar out of him. Beat the tar out of him. This is what Acts says, chapter 5, verse 40 and 41. The others accepted this advice. They called in the apostles and they had him flogged. Listen, you've been spanked by mom or dad. The flogging, frightening, okay? They had them flogged. They ordered them never again to speak in the name of Jesus. Count this. Physically, I want to put you in the worst place possible in this moment. I am flogging you, and now I'm telling you, never do this again, and let them go. And some of you already know what happens in verse 41. The apostles left the high council and went out rejoicing that God had counted them worthy to suffer disgrace for the name of Jesus. And they went along with, look, how great is our God. How great is our God, says the guy whose scalp is bleeding. How great is our God? It's like, I'm pretty sure I've lost function in my left arm. How great is our God? That in the physical, it did not matter because the promises were greater. And I want you guys to know this because when I sit with this word, when I sit with the word wonder in the midst of whatever mess, there's one thing that draws my mind, and it's this. Why, here's the question, why would God care about your happiness? Why would God care about my happiness? Why would God care about anyone's happiness? One word that I want you to dwell on as we think of this question. This is exciting for me because I'm going to say something, but I'm watching it happen in the moment. Here's the word. Father. God cares about our happiness because He's a Father. God cares about you. He's your Father. And we've got to understand in the midst of all this mess, in the midst of, in the desert, wandering like Frankenstein, all of us can be wondering, like Einstein, on the promise that we have a heavenly Father that loves us so much in the midst of our circumstances, He goes on a suicide mission to rescue us, to give His life up, to understand that I want them so bad, I'm coming for them, I'm going for them, in the man of Jesus Christ. And in the simplicity of, why does God care about our happiness? Because He's a Father. And a father loves to hear their children. A father loves to see the smile of a child. And so no matter how bad it is, you're blessed. You know, we've got a wall up here. We played a song a few weeks back, and some of you in your head just started singing, I'm so blessed, I'm so blessed. Out of tune. That's my mind. It's also out of tune. No matter how bad it is, you're blessed. And so let's take that this step. Focus on the wonders of God. Focus on the wonders of God. You'll be in a wonderful place. Doesn't matter where your feet are. Doesn't matter the current circumstances of where you are. When you focus on the wonders of God, you'll be in a wonderful place. To those of you that know Christ, to those of you that are in Christ, to those that you celebrate around the table, the man of Christ, I speak again, no matter how bad it is, you're blessed. That's your invite, that's your invitation, that's your heart check. Repentance sometimes means, am I seeking the world more than my wonderful God? Repent from living like Frankenstein throughout this world, from a God that wants us using our mind to focus on His glory. Yeah, I got a fake story. I'm prefacing this by telling you this is fake. I got a call from David Bell. This is a fake story. I have to say this multiple times because it's ridiculous. I got a call from David Bell. And David Bell is the baseball coach for the Cincinnati Reds. And he said on the other side of the line, he said, "Hey, Rob, I need you down in Cincinnati. You're on the team." And I went, "Ha!" And I hung up. And then the phone rang again, same number. And he said, "No, seriously, this is David Bell, and this is me imitating his voice. This is David Bell. I need you down in Cincinnati. You're on the team. I'm serious." And he said it 3 times until the point that I thought, oh yeah, he's serious. Am I going to go and be on the team? I know this is a ridiculous scenario. Mike Goldsmith is like, yes, this is a ridiculous scenario. There's only one person that's ever told me I'm on their team, and it was Mike. And I'm pretty sure that team might still exist. I don't know if I'm on it. I don't know. But pick your favorite football team, baseball team, if the coach called you up and said, "Hey, we got you a roster spot, you're on the team." You know, all of us would go, I don't think so. I'm not. You still have the wrong number. When God called you through Jesus Christ, you've got an understanding to make. Is this on my performance, or is this upon yours? And there are some of us that we still have not answered the call of a heavenly Father through Jesus Christ because we are stuck thinking it's based upon my performance. I don't deserve to be on the team. I cannot be on the team. I started bunting in pitching machine league. I couldn't hit it. I can't be on your team. I have plenty of witnesses for how terrible I am. And yet the call comes, you're on the team. For those of you that are not there yet in faith, for those of you that have not come to the Father, for those of you that have not answered the call, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Why would you want a sinner like me on your team? And David Bell says the only thing that's going to separate whether you're playing for us or not is whether you come down and put the uniform on. Pave the way. It's all ready for you. I'd be a fool not to show up. I'd be a fool not to put the uniform on. I may still look like a fool on the field, but I'd be a fool not to join the team. And listen, for those of you that have not answered that call that God has placed before you through Jesus Christ that says, come, you're on the team. Focus on His promise, what He has said, not on your own performance. Because I know a guy that answered that call and continually drops fly balls. I know a guy who answered that call that continually swings and misses. I'm that guy. And so I want you to understand, for those of you that are like, I'm feeling it, I'm walking through it, I'm hearing it, it is based upon the performance of Jesus Christ. The question becomes, are you going to put on the uniform? Are you going to join the team? Are you going to make that walk? Are you going to walk through the waters of baptism and say, hey, listen, I'm in. I'm here. I'm walking with you. I'm going to be there with you. You know how awful I am. And he goes, yeah, I do. But we're going to work on that. And that's the life of faith. It's not getting it right and then showing up. It is understanding that there is an all-loving Father calling you in, calling you to Him. And all we can do is sit like a child on a watermelon and just go, I wonder why. I wonder why. I want to invite up the worship team. I want to invite our parents. I'm going to go ahead and say what's coming up. And we're going to invite some children in from junior worship. And as we're getting set to enter into a time of worship, just understand the wonders of an amazing God. Do not be upset when you wander. Do not be upset when you don't find happiness. Do not be upset when you're just like, I'm a grumpy guy and I don't know where I'm going. Hear the wonders of our God as a Father